All right. Well, good morning. Good to be with you guys. This is so amazing just to see the body come together and to see our church. My name's Corey. I'm from Living Roots Church, as Brett said, in downtown Santa Rosa. It's just amazing to see the body come together, right? Same team, same dream, right? It's so awesome. This is amazing. And Spring Hills, just so you guys know, is a major component of bringing the Church of Santa Rosa and Sonoma County together. Like Brett said, we meet twice a month right here in where you guys are at in Spring Hills, and we just, it's such a blessing to just, hey, arm in arm, hey, let's encourage each other, let's work together, let's do whatever we can to help each other out, and it's absolutely amazing. So thank you, Spring Hills. Thank you for having me. It's exciting to be here. A little bit about me. I'm Corey. I'm from Nebraska originally. The Coast Guard brought me out here. I kind of washed off ashore, and I got out of the Coast Guard a few years ago and to pursue ministry full time. But that's what kind of brought me to Sonoma County. But being from Nebraska, just so you guys know, there's no fear of me using big words today. Okay, you guys will be good. You don't have to worry about that. And yeah, that's good. That's how that happens. Nebraska public school education. That's how we do that. But yeah, it's amazing. So you guys are going through a series right now, and I was here last week actually as Brett started the series called #Bless the Life of Abraham, and I got an Instagram account 2 days ago, so I'm basically an expert at hashtags by now. But if you don't know, for those of you that don't know what a hashtag is basically a way of categorizing a post on social media. You post something on social media, you put a hashtag next to it, and if people are looking for that category or topic, they can find your post, right? So I did that for #blessed. I was like, all right, how many posts are out there for #blessed? What kind of comes up for that? There are over 120 million posts for #blessed on Instagram, okay? And what we're finding, and as Brett started the series, is that what the world would call #blessed may not exactly be what God would call #blessed. And what God would call #blessed may not exactly be what Instagram or Facebook would call #blessed. And I'm thankful for that. Because by all accounts and standards, I am not growing up, I am not a #blessed type of person. I mean, I grew up in a broken home. I grew up with a single dad who raised me and my brother. I grew up my dad was always working, always gone. I grew up in one of those homes that you would never want to show people, that you were embarrassed to be dropped off at type home. That's where I kind of grew up. That's my background, And I don't know about you, but I am thankful that God's standard of being blessed is different than what you would see online, right? But for those of you that are blessed, with maybe material things, and that's what you find on Instagram and Facebook, you see when people put #blessed, they've got a new house, they've got a good relationship, they've got great maybe kids or whatever it looks like, or promotion, something, right? But it's very different than what God calls #blessed, and that's what we started with the life of Abraham. Right? Abraham, if you think about him, last week, he was called from a very comfortable place at age 75, okay? He was called out of a very comfortable place to go to a place that God would eventually show him, right? So he left all this stability, which typically means blessed is stability. He left his stability to go where God would show him. Right? So his blessing was to get up and to go because he knew that God was going to be with him. The blessing was to be called by God. It wasn't knowing where you're going, it's knowing the one who you're going with that makes you blessed. And that's what Abraham experienced. Well, he gets to Canaan where he was going, and God showed him there. Shortly after that, he goes to war, right? So he goes to war. His nephew that went with him starts fighting with some kings, and he starts to go to war. And so Abraham sends 300 people that he had with him to go and fight and bring his nephew back. So let me get this straight. He left stability. He didn't know where he was going. He left most of his family, and he left most of his belongings and went to Canaan, and then he went to war. Does that sound blessed to you? Is that a blessed life? #bombshell? Is that what you put? What do you say with that? That's crazy. But God was with him, and the way that God defines blessing is different than the way we may naturally define blessing. And that's what we hope to do today. So, as we go into the life of Abraham, and we're going to pick up here. And by the way, God made Abraham incredibly rich. He goes to Canaan. He had all these belongings and stuff. He was incredibly rich. But we're going to find out that not even that was what made him feel blessed, But as we go here, guys, as we start on part 2 of #Bless the Life of Abraham, I hope you guys walk away, every single person in this room. I hope you don't leave here. Like, don't leave if you are not leaving blessed. Like, I want you to be blessed the way God defines blessed. Doesn't mean you're going to walk out here with a lottery ticket, right? But what it means, I want you to be blessed the way God defines blessed. And we're going to go into part 2, which is an unexpected blessing, right, of the life of Abraham. So if you have Bibles, you can turn them on or open them up. I'll have it on the screen here as well. But we're going to be in Genesis chapter 15, right? And I kind of set the stage for Abraham, which, by the way, at this point, his name is Abram, which means father, like exalted father. That's what Abram means. That's his name, which is ironic because he didn't have any kids. He had no kids, and his name's exalted father. That's like, imagine living like that for all your life. Your name's exalted father, and you're 75, 76, and you don't have any kids. Like, that's ironic, okay? But after he went to Canaan, he went to war, he came back, he's got tremendous wealth and tremendous blessing. This is an interaction he has with God. Sometime later, the Lord spoke to Abram in a vision and said to him, "Do not be afraid, Abram, for I will protect you, and your reward will be great." But Abram replied, "O sovereign Lord, what good are all your blessings when I don't even have a son? Since you've given me no children, Eliezer of Damascus, a servant in my household, will inherit all my wealth." Here's the ironic thing about Abram at this time. His name is later changed to Abraham, so I'm going to call him Abraham from here on out probably. But Abraham, God changed his name when God changed his identity. You see that through the Bible. When God comes upon somebody, he changes their name, when he changes their identity of who they are. Abraham, ironically, means father of many nations. That's what Abraham means. He went from exalted father to father of many nations, okay? But at this point, Abraham is having an interaction with God where he realizes that, hey, like, thank you for blessing me. Thank you. You guys ever feel that way? Thank you for your blessings, God. But, right? Like, and it's ironically, you've got what the world wants. Maybe you've experienced it. You've got what all the world wants, and everyone's like, dude, you're so blessed. You've got everything the world wants, but you don't have what the world has, and that's what you want, right? You know, it's hard to feel blessed when you're focused on what you don't have, right? It doesn't matter how many people around you say you're blessed. It doesn't matter, that, but it just, like, to focus on what you don't have lets you just not feel blessed. And that's certainly Abram in this part of the story. But also Abraham realized something that I wish we all believed in our hearts, that wealth isn't everything. Wealth isn't everything. Clearly, he had a tremendous amount of wealth. He had over 300 people, servants, that were born in his household. Like a huge property, huge animals, livestock, income, all that stuff, and that wasn't enough to make him satisfied. I wish I believed that all the time, right? I wish I could be like, yeah, God, you're my provider, I'm good. I want to be like that, right? Isn't it such a blessing to be like, to have that relationship with God where it's like you don't need to have everything, but you're still like, okay? That's what I want so bad. Right? And I want that for you as well. But here, God continues with this dialogue with Abram. In verse 3, it says, "You have given me no descendants of my own, so one of my servants will be my heir." We like to remind God of things like this. Like, hey, God, remember when you said you would kind of bless me? That's wonderful. But just to remind you, I don't have any descendants yet. Just throw it out there. I'm going to die soon. I'm like in my late 70s. Just to remind you, okay? We like to remind God. Verse 4. "Then the Lord said to him, 'No, your servant will not be your heir, for you will have a son of your own who will be your heir.'" He continues, "Then the Lord took him outside and said to him, 'Look up into the sky and count the stars if you can. That's how many descendants you will have.'" God is not holding out on Abram. His timing just isn't the same as Abram's timing. God's not holding back. God's not like, I'm going to give you a bunch of things, but then I'm going to hold back what's really good and what you really need. No, his timing is just different. And it's the same way in our lives, guys, right? Do you feel like God's holding out on you? Do you feel like, okay, if I'm following God, I'm like laying down all the things I want to do, all the things I wish I had, right? God, this is like, I thought following you was going to be easy and going to be good, and I thought we would just be totally awesome, but like, God, I don't have what I really want. Do you feel like God is ever holding out on you? And God's not holding out. God's like, listen, I'm going to bless you. In fact, I'm going to bless you beyond your wildest dreams that you could possibly imagine. But that's not the blessing of Abraham. And that's not what I want you to walk away with today. I don't want you to walk away with, hey, God's timing is good and God will give you what you need eventually. That's not what I want you to walk away with. What I want you to walk away with is actually verse 6. Watch this. Abram believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as righteous because of his faith. Wait, what does that have to do with kids? And what does that have to do with descendants? What does that have to do with anything? Guys, the true blessing was that Abram was counted righteous. Now, why does that matter? I don't know where you are in your faith. I don't know where you are with Christianity and your background with like religion. I don't know where you are. But Christians actually believe. And listen, if you're not a Christian, I always say this. Listen, it's always good to at least hear what God says about something. You don't have to agree with it, but at least hear what God has to say about something. It's always good. Hey, that's a different perspective, because so many times God's perspective is different than what we'll find online, right? Very different. So Christians actually believe this whole righteousness thing. Christians actually believe that there was a time where mankind was close with God, like literally could see God, walk with God, all that stuff, right? And then mankind did something that was not like God. Mankind didn't trust God. You've heard the story, Adam and Eve. You heard the story where they eat the forbidden fruit. They did something that was not like God. They did not trust God. And then, just like any other relationship, when you don't have trust, it breaks the relationship. Okay? Guys, in Nebraska public school education language, that's what we call sin. Anything that we do that is not like God is sin. And anytime we do something that's not good or not right, it causes separation in the relationship. It causes a death or a brokenness in a relationship. And it's the same way with our relationships. When there's not trust in our relationships, there's separation, there's death, there's brokenness. Well, to redeem that relationship between us and God, you need to be righteous, right? You need to be righteous. If you're going to have a right relationship with a right God, then you better be right. So, what blows me away is that Abraham simply believed God, and that made him right with God. He just trusted him. Because guess what, guys? It's not just about doing the right thing. I mean, Abraham did a lot of right things. He did a lot of good stuff. It was about having a right relationship with God. That's the blessing. That's the blessing I want you to walk away with today. It's not just to do a bunch of good things. And you guys seem like great people. In fact, you guys dress very nicely. I'm sure that's what makes you nice. I'm sure you wear nice clothes. You must be a nice person. I don't know. But you guys seem incredibly nice, incredibly good, but that does not make you right with God. And some of us need to hear that. Is that good news or what? Is that like, hey, I've tried that thing. I've tried doing all the right things that God says, and I view God as somebody that just has a bunch of rules I need to follow, and then he'll love me and accept me. No, the way we have a right relationship with God is by believing God, by trusting God. In other words, righteousness is what it means to be made right with God. If God cared only about us just doing what's right, and by the way, God does care about us doing what's right because he cares about us. And he does have guidelines for how to live life, and he cares about us following them because he knows what's best for us. He knows more than Instagram does. He just does. Okay? He cares about us doing right things because he loves us, just like we want our kids to do the right thing because we love them, right? But it's not just about us doing the right thing, it's about us having a right relationship with God. If God cared only about us doing right things, then he wouldn't have made us with the opportunity to do wrong things. Right? I mean, I went to Nebraska public school, and I know that. I can put two and two together, okay? You don't have to go to seminary for years to learn this kind of stuff. Listen, God cares more than just us doing what's right. He wants a relationship with us. Do you view God that way? Do you think about God that way? I mean, God cares about us doing the right thing because if we do the wrong thing, it tears down, it hurts our relationship. But ultimately, what God is after is a relationship with you and with me. Now, in Romans 4 builds on this because so oftentimes we view our relationship with God as like a mean judge that just has a list of rules. If we follow him, he will love us. Imagine having any other relationship that would be that way. Some of you have experienced that with your parents, haven't you? Right? They will love you if, they have a list of expectations for you, and then they will love you. Guys, Christianity is literally the only faith that says God literally did everything for you. Just trust him. He wants a relationship with you. Wow. Wow. Don't leave here. Don't leave here without understanding that God wants a relationship with you. Don't leave here without, don't miss that. I'll just keep talking and we'll just keep thinking about that. I don't know. Don't leave without knowing that. In Romans 4, he goes into it a little bit further. He goes into the idea of being made right with God, not just by following a bunch of rules. Romans 4, verse 1. Abraham was, humanly speaking, the founder of the Jewish nation. What did he discover about being made right with God? How did Abraham become made right with God? Now, by the way, Romans 4, the guy's name's Abraham now. This was written about 2,000 years after the life of Abraham, okay? This is even written after Jesus died. Even after Jesus died, he's like, hey, how did Abraham, which way before Jesus died, be made right with God? Verse 2, if his good deeds had made him acceptable to God, he would have had something to boast about or brag about. But that was not God's way. Thank God that that's not God's way. Verse 3, for the scriptures tell us Abraham believed God, and God counted him as righteous because of his faith. Verse 4, it's going to go into labor and stuff. So verse 4, when people work, their wages are not a gift, but something they have earned. Wait a second. Our righteousness, our relationship with God isn't earned. It's a gift. Did you catch that? It's a gift. Your relationship with God is a gift. That's why Jesus came to the earth. Do you understand? Jesus came to the earth so that he could abolish, he could pay the penalty of our sin. He could take away the penalty of our sin that separates us from God. That's why Jesus came. Jesus came to live the life that you couldn't live. Jesus came to earn it for you when you couldn't earn it, so that he could give you the gift of righteousness with God. That's why Jesus came. He lived a perfect life, he died, and he rose again. Now, I don't know where you are in your faith, but listen, anybody that can predict their death and resurrection and then pull it off, we should probably pay attention to. I'm just and I'm not that smart. I mean, I keep saying this, and I'm not being facetious here. There's questions, there's doubts, there's what really messes with me, and I grew up not a Christian kid. I wasn't a church kid. I didn't like God because I didn't like God's people. That was me, right? I didn't like God because I did not like God's people. But when I started understanding who God is, everyone likes Jesus, just not people who say they follow Jesus. And we're going to talk about that in a second. We're going to talk about what it looks like to have a relationship with Jesus, in a second. But the point is, it's not a wage. Your relationship with God, and thank God it's not that way. It's the same way with our kids. I hope as parents, and I have 3 little kids, I hope they never have to earn my love. They never have to earn my acceptance. But I do hope they receive it. I do hope they receive my love and receive my acceptance and receive my instruction and receive all this stuff. All you have to do is receive it because it's a gift. Verse 5, but people are counted as righteous not because of their work or their good deeds, but because of their faith in God who forgives sinners. Wow. Wow, that's the foundation of the Christian faith altogether. That's the foundation of the blessing of Abraham. He was righteous, which means he was made right with God. That's the gift of righteousness that I want you guys to have today. And so there are a couple different types of people in the room, I'm sure. Romans 10 says, if you confess, this is as simple as this, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. Actually, I'm going to go back to that so you can just look at that for a second. Confess with your mouth, Jesus is Lord. Jesus actually is God. Jesus actually is who he said he was. He's God. He's Lord. He's Master. He knows better than I do. Confess with your mouth. Believe in your heart that God actually raised him from the dead. Why does that matter? Because if God raised him from the dead, those who have faith in him will also raise from the dead, right? We're just people of faith. Just like Abraham, he couldn't even see it. God promised that he would have a whole bunch of descendants when he couldn't even see it. We, through faith, believe that we also will rise and go with God through faith, even though we can't even see it. Verse 10, for with the heart one believes and is justified, and with the mouth one confesses and is saved. It's all about your belief. What you believe is what makes you right with God. And with your mouth, the whole confession of your mouth, that's your first step of faith. Nobody can say Jesus is Lord unless God is working in their heart. You can just say it, but do you actually believe it? You can't actually believe it unless God works in you by his grace, and he works in you so you can take your first step of faith, which is confession. You know what your second one is? Baptism. That's your second one. It's not that you're saved because you're baptized, not because you're, it's like, listen, it's because of what you believe in your heart. That's your next step of faith. And so there are a couple people in the room, right, that don't have a right relationship with God, right? They figure, okay, I'm good enough, so God must accept me. I have to earn God's love. Okay, get rid of that in your mind. Don't like shake it off before you leave, and walk out, understanding that the love of God is not something that you earn, it's something that you receive. Okay? And for those of you that have received the love of God, yeah, I've said the prayer, I believe in my heart, I'm totally convinced. Do you have a relationship with God? Do you actually have a relationship with God? You think that righteousness is the end of everything? Okay, now that I'm made right with God, I'll just continue my life however I want to live it. Righteousness is not the end, it's the beginning of a relationship with God. That's what righteousness does. It makes you so that your relationship with God is right. You know you can have a good relationship with God so that you can start living close with God. Now, I wish I saw that as a kid. I wish I saw Christians that actually had a relationship with God. Because Christians that have a relationship with God start looking like God. They start acting like God. You are who your friends are. You've heard it? Abraham was called a friend of God because he had a relationship with God. He was close with God. So for those of you that are quote unquote saved and you just end it and you want to live your life kind of separate apart from you, you're missing the whole thing. The whole thing. You're thinking, I just don't want to go to, a bad place when I die. I hear it's hot. I don't know. Guys, and you want to go to heaven because it seems like a happy place when you die. Guys, heaven is a closeness with God. In very simple terms, it's closeness with God. And there's all kinds of pictures throughout the Bible of what heaven's like. All kinds. The opposite, hell, what the Bible calls hell, is separation from God. And there's all kinds of pictures of what that's like. Bottom line, it's not good to be separate from God. You can't just be righteous with God and then want to be separate from him. You miss the whole point, right? You miss the entire point. If you want to just be separate from God and move on in your life, you miss the whole point. The whole point of heaven and hell, the whole point is to be close with God, the righteousness that is required to get you into a relationship with God. So I want you to be blessed. I want you to be blessed with a right relationship with God. I want you to have that wall broken down between the separation between you and God, and through faith, I want you to receive. And those of you that have received, I want you to have a relationship and continue walking with him. Because guess what? And I'm going to go back to this. This is the true blessing. The true blessing isn't getting what you've always wanted. It's getting the one that you've always needed. That's the blessed life. That's what it means to be blessed. Getting the one you've always needed. Not getting everything you've always dreamed of. Abraham got a bunch of kids. That's wonderful. That's good. Some of us won't. Some of us will. The true blessing isn't getting what you've always wanted. It's getting the one you've always needed. The true blessing isn't having a bunch of provision. The true blessing is having a provider. The true blessing, what isn't getting material things, it's getting the one who can provide whatever material things you need. It's not having a temporal relationship for your life. It's having an eternal relationship with a God that loves you, right? That's the blessed life, and you probably won't see that on Instagram, right? The blessed life is getting the promotion. The blessed life is getting the things, getting the big house. The blessed life isn't getting what you've always wanted. It's getting the one you've always needed, and it's always better to have him. You can just calm down and stop stressing out when you stop pursuing the other blessings and you pursue the true blessing, who is God. So I want to pray for us. I'm serious. I can stay here till midnight. I don't care. I don't have anything going on, just have 3 kids. Sometimes this is calmer than having 3. Um, I want you guys to be blessed. I want you guys to be truly blessed. I want you guys to not just have material things. I want you to have a provider. I want you to have the one you've always wanted, the one you've always needed, and you receive him through faith. And so I want you to take your first step today. I'm going to pray for you. You can write it on a Connect card or however you guys do that. You can write it down. Hey, I want to take my first step of faith with God. I want a relationship with God. Okay? And for those of you that have had a relationship with God or are considered righteous with God, I want you to walk with God. I want you to pursue a relationship with God. I mean, imagine that your relationship with God is the same way of your relationship with other people. Like, are you closer to your spouse than you are with God? Are you closer to your kids than you are with God? Are you closer to your friends than you are with God? Do you just talk to God once a week when you come here? No. Pursue a relationship. And as you pursue your relationship with God, you become more like God. The world doesn't need more people that are righteous. The world needs more people that are like God, have a relationship with God. That's what the world needs. So let me pray. God, I thank you for this community. I thank you for this message of reconciliation with you, this righteousness. May people be set free from trying to prove themselves and earn your love, but through faith, may they receive your love, your gift of righteousness. And for those in the room that have received it 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 5 years ago, would you rekindle that closeness? That righteousness is all about, it's all about a relationship with you. Would you rekindle that in the hearts of the people here? May they take that step of a relationship with you. May they not end at just being right, but may they end at having a right relationship with you. In Jesus' name, amen.